if you're someone who's looking to hire offshore, but you don't want to deal with handling payroll and being compliant in those countries overseas, we do that for you. And so we will pay the employees, we will make sure that we're adhering to all the labor laws, we're staying compliant. You're at no risk, we're at risk, because we act as the employer of record. We also do all the admin stuff on the back end, but also, being a staffing agency, we act as your forever HR partner. So if there's ever an issue with the employee that I find you, for example, or if any administrative clarifications, any issues that happen internally, we're there to support you and we step in. For Talent Hackers, we chose Nigeria because we saw in the Philippines in particular, and sometimes in Pakistan, because Pakistan's 9 hours ahead, Philippines is 12 hours ahead, we saw a lot of burnout and a lot of churn with our employees in the Philippines mainly, but also a little bit in Pakistan, because again, they're 9 hours ahead too. The reason why is because they're working like vampires. They have to work Eastern time zone or sometimes Pacific time zone for U.S. businesses, and they're 12 hours ahead of the Eastern time zone. So they're working 9 p.m. to 5 a.m.
It's crazy.
Their time.
Insane.
So they're night owls.
Yeah.
So you have a highly motivated population, right? Because they're an impoverished country. The median salary there is like $300 to $400 a month. And you're giving them the opportunity to work for a U.S. business and make 3 to 4 to 5 times the median salary in their country. And they're doing it remotely, just with a Wi-Fi connection. So now, by enabling these people in Nigeria who are young, hungry, capable, have integrity, or honorable, they are going above and beyond for you because you're giving them the opportunity to build their resume working for your company that's based in the U.S. And so we're finding these people to be extremely proactive, very good communicators, and most people don't even know that the native language in Nigeria is English. People think they don't speak English.
I thought it was French or something.
It's English. The president gives speeches in English.
Welcome back to Make America Remote Again. I'm here with my good friend Raz. We're all the way in Medellin, Colombia. And today, guys, I'm so excited about this podcast because I usually interview badass entrepreneurs from all over the world, but I get to know about different industries. For instance, last week we learned a little bit about the boutique hotel industry, and I've interviewed people in the oil industry. And now, finally, I get to interview someone in similar industry with me, but doing it in a different way. So Raz, thank you so much for coming to this podcast, and I'm ready to dive into a little bit of what you do. But before we get there, how do we get here, right? Because I'm always curious about the entrepreneurial journey. I learned a little bit about this weekend. We had a good time this past weekend in Medellin, Colombia.
Yes, we did.
But a lot of people are always, to me, the coolest part about entrepreneurship is the story, the journey. Not the final destination, the millions of dollars. That's obviously cool, but the coolest part is how you got to where you are today. So take us back, 3 to 5 years ago. We're similar age. How did you make it from you were going to school to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the story goes back 10 years, actually. So
wow.
I'm 27 years old. My entrepreneurship journey really started in my teenage years. I was, I did network marketing.
Nice.
So I did a lot of presentations all across the world. I spoke in front of 3,000 people. Was the most people I spoke to at 16 years old, actually, believe it or not. And so that was really the spark of my entrepreneurial journey.
What network marketing was it?
It was called Vima. You know about it? I didn't tell you about this? Were you part of Vima?
You're in Vima?
I was, yeah.
Vitamins, essential minerals, mangosteen, and aloe?
That's right.
Holy shit. This is crazy as fuck. That's my career. That's how I started too.
Are you serious?
Swear to God, 2013.
No way.
Swear to God, I was in Powerhouse, Atlanta, under Jed Buenaluz.
I know Jed, Mr. International.
Yes. So we were under his leg, and we were like his profit leg.
No way.
Yes, in Georgia. And yeah, that's so fucking crazy. So what year was this we're talking about
2012
here?
I started.
2012, so you were a year before me.
I started February 2012.
And whose leg were you under?
Under Luke Kish.
Luke Kish, of course. I know. I don't know him, but I know of him.
Yeah.
So I'm a friend of him, but you know Eddie Malouf. That's how I know Eddie, because he was in Vima as well, and we met in Georgia in the Vima team. Yeah. Dude, my Vima story real quick before I cut you off, because I am here because I didn't make any money from it. I'm excited to hear about your story.
Yeah.
The presentations, brought my friends, but we all added them to one leg. So the way Vima works, guys, is very interesting. There's a lot of different ways of network marketing.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways, but Vima is, you build two legs. So people always like, oh, it's a pyramid scheme. Well, here's why it's not a pyramid scheme, because if I get two people and one of them doesn't do anything, and one of them does a lot, but this person gets two other people and they build incredible two separate teams, but the one person I have here doesn't do anything, I make no money, this person under me makes way more money than me.
And that's how it was under me. I had one power leg.
Yeah.
Actually, I recruited my cousin.
Yeah.
And he ended up hitting presidential under me.
Holy shitty presidential!
Yeah. And we built the biggest London team. Actually, we were the pioneers of the London UK team.
Dude,
And so I was traveling the world. I was traveling to London specifically at the age of 16,
crazy.
doing presentations back to back to back to back to back.
Yeah.
And we had a team of, I think, 2,000 people under me.
That is insane.
That was my power leg.
We have a whole not here, but there's like a Vima crew that I've met in marketing agency world in the last several years, because that started YPR.
YPR, we
like literally YPR was, even though we won YPR, we were still kind of YPR, you know? It's
100%.
like everybody's under Al-Kazan at the end of the day.
Al-Kazan, yeah.
Yeah, so that's...
I still talk to Al-Kazan, actually.
That's...
Yeah.
We got to go off script eventually about talk about this. So you started in Vima 2012, so you were how old, like 15?
I was 15 years old when I started. I was the youngest person to hit Diamond.
Okay.
At the age of 15.
Got the car?
I got the car.
So at Diamond, you actually earn enough money to pay off for a car.
Exactly. They give you $400 a month to pay for a lease.
Which is, by the way, an absolute sham, because you should not be doing that as a 16-year-old.
You have to exactly. Yes. So the whole joke was you're the only person that has gotten a car from Vima but can't drive it.
Because you were too young.
Because I was too young. Because I got my license at 17.
Okay, that's very cool. So then, so that was the entrepreneur. I'm actually curious, how did you even get there? Did you get tricked to going to the event?
I didn't get tricked. A good friend of mine, he invited me to an event in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And actually, it's funny. Luke Kish was on the screen. He was zoomed in or Skyped in at the time.
Okay.
And there was a very great network of people, a community of people out there. And I was young.
Impressionable.
Naive, social.
Yeah.
And I wanted to get my feet wet. I had that itch because I grew up in a household of entrepreneurs. So I have two older brothers and one younger brother. The two older brothers are entrepreneurs themselves currently, and my father is also an entrepreneur.
So it's been in your blood, basically.
It's been in my blood, but I never knew how I can add value or where my journey is going to begin. And so when this opportunity came, I mean,
it's
I don't
the greatest
know.
opportunity of your life.
Exactly.
Is that the same shit, you guys? Oh, that's so funny.
That's what they did at the All In conference in Vegas. Did you go to that?
I did not. I went to the one in Ohio. That's where I met some people. I missed the one in Vegas, like finances, whatever. I was still broke doing Vima. Well, we'll talk off script because I want to. So 2012, you started Vima. Yep. Got into it, and it was your first experience really doing yourself.
Yes.
Because in high school, you have two choices. You're either going to do something like network marketing or you sell drugs.
Exactly. And I decided not to sell drugs.
Yeah, good choice.
But it was funny because, when I'm in high school, and the people that I was working with were actually in college. And so I was the only one really in high school, and I brought it to my high school, or I tried to. And so I did get laughed at. I did recruit some other people in high school, but I got laughed at mostly. And I put aside my social needs in high school to focus on this, and I really went all in. So that was my start. And then I actually, Vima died down. And then
Then I
didn't know what to do, and I went to college. We know about we don't need to get into the details, but I went to college, and then I kind of was trying to find myself. I went to Montclair State University, UMD. I got a bachelor's in economics.
Okay.
And then I started selling on Amazon in college. So I started following this guy, Larry Lubarsky, on YouTube, and I joined Facebook groups, and I learned by talking to people, and they would help me out, and I got a small loan of like $3,000 from my father, and I purchased my first batch of used inventory, but refurbished inventory, and I sold wholesale on Amazon. And then I found some guy in Vietnam, and he had product ideas, and I invested another $10,000 with him, and we created a brand. We sold scratch-off maps. So that was, I broke even. Maybe I made a few $1,000s in profit. But the point is, I had to learn how to sell on Amazon. I sold my brother's books, and so that was how I really started my entrepreneurial journey, trying to figure out what I can do in college. And then after that, we started D1 Brands, which is the first real company that we started that got really big. How
long were you doing Amazon on your own for?
I was doing it for about 6 months.
So from the 3K,
12 months maybe.
Did you make profit, ROI, paid your dad back?
Yeah, I did. We made $30,000. It was selling the scratch-off maps. We ordered 1,000 units, sold them for $30 a piece. $30,000 in revenue in 3 weeks. We sold out. This is during Q4 in December. And we made $3,000 in profit from that. 50-50 split with me and my father. We made $1,500. But it was a proof of concept.
Yeah,
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
You know, and that was how I got started.
So then that was the Amazon. So it's really cool, man, because even though, and I love my parents to death, they weren't the most supportive people in terms of business because none of them were entrepreneurs. I held that against them for such a long time.
Yeah.
It took me a while to just kind of realize, like, dude, they didn't know. It wasn't like there was anything bad. So, like, in a sense, it's a super dope place and grateful and blessed place that you were in where your parents can support you. But obviously, I'm sure your dad was not going to be like, okay, I'm just going to fund the next thing, the next thing. This was probably like, hey, prove to me that you can do something and then make it happen from there. So then the transition was to, you said D1 Brands?
Transition was to D1 Brands. D1 Brands is an Amazon aggregator. So we decided to roll up private label brands on Amazon. So a lot of individuals, even today, there's tens of thousands of sellers, have created their own brands, on their own. They're like kind of mom and pop shops, essentially run on, one individual can build a multi-million-dollar business on Amazon. And so we would completely buy out these businesses from these individuals, take it over and roll it up into our organization with the intention to scale and grow it. And so we built a team around that, and we acquired 20 businesses in our first year. We raised a Series A. We actually.
What year was this?
This was in, I was 24 years ago, so 2020, COVID, 2021.
Okay.
2020, 2021. COVID had just hit, and everything was like this. All the charts were like this.
For Amazon, yeah.
For Amazon. E-commerce sales, crazy. But that was the best learning experience ever. I learned what most people learn in probably 10 years in the span of 2 years, because we started and built the business throughout COVID, prior to and throughout COVID. And there were so many learning lessons of doing that with, a boom in demand, the supply chain disaster we all know about, fees increasing on Amazon.
Economy in general.
Yeah. We built an offshore team. We had 150 employees.
It's crazy.
We raised a ton of money.
Yeah.
Had 4 different rounds of financing.
Wow.
We went through a merger with another aggregator. We acquired another aggregator. So there was a ton. It was a real business. It was the first real business I built, and I was 23 years old at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, going through 4 C's, it's like crazy. Most people can't even make it through 1.
Yeah. Well, we raised with friends and family in the beginning to make a couple acquisitions to establish the proof of concept that we can actually acquire a business, integrate it, and then grow it and scale it.
Yeah, okay.
And then from there, you take that proof of concept and you go out and you pitch investors and you try to raise more money, equity and debt, to acquire more assets. And that's exactly what we did. I partnered with my brother, actually, and 2 other people. And from there, that's what we've done.
That was about 2 years.
That was about 2 years. I stepped down from day-to-day operations earlier this year in order to build this new business, which we're both in.
Yes.
But it's interesting because I saw an opportunity that I really wanted to capture, which is why I stepped down. So currently, D1 Brands is now called the Amber Group. That is it's self-sufficient right now. So we have an executive team in place, employees, systems, everything's on its own. I don't need to be there to grow it anymore. So now I'm building talent hackers. So we hired 150 people offshore in Pakistan and the Philippines for D1 Brands Amber Group, right?
Other people that you were hiring for. They weren't 150 workers for you guys, right?
There were 150 workers for us.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Now we have about 50 brands. So you need to manage all those brands.
Gotcha.
You got to build all these departments. We hired 90% of our talent offshore.
Okay.
The other 10% in the US.
Got it.
So, that experience, then I thought to myself, wait, we essentially just built a recruiting firm internally. How can I monetize this? And so I stepped down and built Talent Hackers, and my focus now is to help other businesses build their businesses with offshore talent. And why I think that's so important is because if we hired those 150 people, which we need those resources to manage 50 brands, but if we hired those 150 people in the US, our payroll costs would be 5x what they are today.
Maybe more.
And we would probably be out of business.
Yeah.
We were able to, remember I told you we went through COVID, there's a ton of demand, but also there was a huge crash, Sales normalized and we didn't expect it to go down that much. The markets really corrected more than we thought that they would. and we had a ton of overstock. Everyone who's in e-commerce kind of knows what the story was with COVID. You had supply chain issues, fees increasing, costs increasing. Container costs were 10x than what they were normally. Anyway, we were losing. Our margins suffered tremendously during this period post-COVID, and if our payroll costs were 5x what they were to operate the business, we would probably, have sunk the ship. But we weathered the storm. A lot of our competitors went out of business, and we're still alive. And I think that's because we leveraged offshore talent from the beginning. And so a lot of companies today want to grow, but they're scared to hire. So they wear so many different hats for so long, and then they get burnt out, and then they fail. So if we can help businesses find talent early on for cheap at an affordable rate, and resource them properly early on, they'll have more of a chance of success.
100%.
Right? Because 95% of businesses fail. We all know this, right? But when do they fail? They fail in the first year because they give up. They're losing money. They don't have enough cash flow.
Whatever it is, yes.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so if you can get that support you need early on, you can delegate your tasks. You can be more efficient. You can think about growth, and then you can focus on cash flow. One thing we learned post-COVID is that a lot of companies in the stock market, crazy valuations based on revenue, not profit, right? Nowadays, investors are looking for cash flowing businesses, profitable and cash flowing businesses. They don't care about revenue anymore unless you're AI, which is the new big thing.
Or SaaS.
Yeah. But e-commerce, they're looking at the multiples are based
agencies
on
too,
and agencies, right? A lot of different businesses. We're in the online business, digital world, so this is what we know. But in every industry, I think it's been a wake-up call for private equity. And so, man, that's how I see businesses, and and that's why I'm building Talent Hackers.
I'm excited. So before we get into Talent Hackers, this guy just got up and he got it I can tell you're passionate about this, which makes me really happy because everything you're seeing, I saw years ago, and I wanted to create this company even before I even have what I have today, just because I was like, there's such a need for, just in the industry I was in, which was marketing agency, and you saw a need in the e-com. But dude, there's needs in health, in healthcare,
right?
Huge insurance,
absolutely,
law firm. I'm talking about you. So one of the things you said, which was very important, is people are losing because they're wearing too many hats. The business runs out. But the other flip side to that is that they're hiring American workers that are, not all the time, because you and I are Americans, and I crushed it at the jobs that I was at, but they're lazy. They cost a lot. They want more for less. They want to make more money. They want to do less work. So is every African person perfect? Is every Colombian? No, but I think there's a lot more potential here and limit, and also the risk of failing here doesn't hurt you nearly as much as the risk of failing with an American employee.
Absolutely, because it's hard to offboard.
Correct.
And you're paying taxes, and there's unemployment insurance, and there's HR, and then there's performance improvement plans now.
A whole thing, and then also if you hire employees, if you hire contractors in the U.S., which is a lot of online businesses do, but you're acting like they're employees, which you're putting them on a 9-to-5, you give them set schedule, that's illegal.
Yeah.
Not saying that's not illegal here, right? But there's a little bit of a wiggle room in a sense because people are contractors here, and as long as they pay. I'd rather deal with the Colombian government than the U.S. government any day of the year. And also the way you get in trouble from what I understand from in the international world, is more if someone tells on you, hey, and they have to go through a bunch of lawyers and law firms. The thing is, if they get paid well, no one's going to say anything.
What you're referring to is staying in compliance with the labor laws in the countries you're hiring from.
100%, you have to.
But we're adhering to those labor laws by how are we doing that? We're offering PTO, observing the annual holiday calendars, offering sick leave. And that's pretty much it.
And compliance through Deal, we use Deal for instance.
Deal,
so Deal is huge.
So the contracts are ironclad.
Exactly. So we're already doing that. So before we dive deeper into Talent Hackers, so you scaled it 2 years, and then what made you not want to go from, you mentioned you're working with 50 brands?
Yeah.
What made you guys not go, okay, let's go to 100 brands and 1,000 brands? Why not just keep growing that to where that was, because one of the biggest things with entrepreneurship, why I think people fail, not only because they quit, but also because they bounce. They're bouncers, right? So
it's a very good question. This is a very good question because I have a lot to say about this, and some stuff I haven't said publicly, honestly. But the truth is that I think e-commerce is great. But for my particular business, because we had I had 3 partners. We had a ton of investors. We had a ton of employees. We had so many different decision makers, a huge executive team. We got diluted through these rounds, and really I didn't have control over the cash flow and the profits. I couldn't take distributions. And so
you didn't have equity?
I have equity, of course, but if the company, you only get it paid when you have an exit, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like my contributions to the company were not as impactful as they were early on in the business. We got really big really fast, and we were working with a ton of overstock. There were a lot of problems. Everyone, it's funny when you talk to someone about their business, you think that you'd never want to do that business because the business owner knows all the problems.
Yeah.
But looking on the outside in, it looks like a beautiful business, right? Because you don't know all the problems.
Of course.
And so that's why people bounce, to answer your question.
Yes.
But I didn't necessarily bounce. I just saw an opportunity to build something that I think will be more valuable than what I was working on there. And I still retain my equity there. And so when we do exit, I'll get a nice payday. We'll see. But I, again, wanted to build something where I'm 100% in control. I also wanted to build a business that didn't have to deal with inventory.
It's more service-based.
A business that cash flows well. A business that I don't have more than one partner in. I like to have a partner, but not more than one. Something that I can bootstrap entirely, start with no debt, because we started with debt technically, right? We raised all this money to acquire these assets. We got to pay interest every single month, and so that was the criteria that I established that I wanted to look for, and I found this business model. It took me a year to find it, by the way. I considered 5-6 other business models while I was at the Amber Group or D1. And then I finally found the right partner and found the right business model, and I attacked this market. And that's where I am today. And it's worked out, but more importantly, we're helping businesses grow.
Yeah.
We're helping them grow at a critical stage of that business's life.
The beginning.
Even Bezos talks about early on in the business, Amazon was at the most risk because he needed to raise $1 million, and he raised $50,000 from 20 different people. And he had to do it in a certain amount of time. And if he hadn't had done it, he would have went bankrupt. But he was able to close the deal before Christmas, I think, when the banks, were still open. And it's like this, it's this story that people know because, Amazon. We wouldn't know what Amazon is today if he didn't raise that money early on. You know what I mean?
Of course, yeah.
So, yeah.
No, it's interesting, man. Because talk to me about the year because. As you're probably looking at so many different service-based businesses, maybe like a marketing agency or, God knows what else. How did you end up making and creating Talent Hackers and partnering up with this person? Because I think it's critical. There's a difference between pivoting and bouncing.
Yeah.
Big difference,
yes.
Right? So you pivoted, right, from where you were to where you are today, which is a big, big difference. I don't mind. I pivoted from the original name that I have to Fava, which to now Remote Latino. Sometimes pivots are critical to the business. So that 1 year, what was that transition like? Because a lot of people that, are going through similar stuff with you, sometimes it's different than you. For you, it's like you grew too fast.
Yeah.
Where in reality, majority of the time, it's they grew too slow, they burnt out, they didn't make money,
exactly.
And then they need to pivot to something else.
Yeah.
So what was that transition period like? And then we'll dive into Talent Hackers a little more.
So I was thinking about, a lot of people were telling me, hey, all your skills are in e-commerce. Stick to e-commerce. Maybe go build your own brand, right? But then I had those criteria, no inventory, no debt, da-da-da. So I was like, okay, I know e-commerce. How can I monetize that skill instead of, starting from scratch somewhere else? So I said to myself, okay, well, I've personally managed the entire brand management team and marketing team at D1 Brands, or the Amber Group now. And so I'm like, wait, I've personally interviewed 500 people probably, have scaled my teams remotely, and oversaw 100 people about 100 people on and off in the brand management department. And so I thought about this business, staffing, offshore staffing, and I thought it made the most sense because I'm focused on helping e-commerce businesses and agencies that support e-commerce businesses hire talent offshore. And who's better to help you hire that talent than me? When I've already screened thousands of people and interviewed hundreds of people and worked with and trained and onboarded 150 people. So that's how I got into this business. I'm still staying within the e-commerce space, but it's just helping other businesses in the e-commerce space find the right people and implement the right systems.
So people are watching. That's your niche. So you've had. I mean, at this point, you've had what 7-8 years of Amazon experience of like being on Amazon.
About 6 years.
From your dad giving you a loan to starting this. I mean, you've had 6. I mean, that's a long time, right? So for you to switch in industries would be kind of silly because then you have to learn everything from scratch.
Yeah.
But there's obviously a need with the e-commerce. They need a team. Yeah. They need what I mean. I don't know the positions, but whatever back end, front end type of people, right? So that makes a huge difference. And then the partnership, because I'm with you. I built a business without a partner, and then I built a business with a partner, and I'd rather have a business with a partner, even if it's 50-50. Because I also don't like doing a lot of stuff, and he doesn't like doing a lot of stuff, and then the stuff I like to do, he doesn't, and vice versa. So it's a perfect match. How did you link up with this person and make the business for both of you guys in a sense?
Yeah, it's funny. He actually worked with us at D1 early on, and he actually went to college with my brother. So I've had a personal relationship with him, but he's incredible. He complements my skill set perfectly. He knows how to sell the product very well. He's a great people person. He's got a great head on his shoulders. He's got a ton of experience in general. He's a bit older than me. He also handles a large part of the recruiting team. And he has a ton of experience in this space as well. He comes from another company that also was a staffing agency. And so, and then I came in, and I feel like I have a great story to tell in this e-commerce space, and to solidify myself as that e-commerce expert, specifically Amazon expert. And a large portion of our ICP, our ideal client profile, our current clients, avatar, whatever you want to call it, they are in the e-commerce space. They know me and they trust me, and they like to work with us. And I think him and I are both personable people, and we offer a good service. We're honest people. We want to help people. We communicate very, very well with our clients, with our teams internally, with our candidates that apply. And so really, I think the partnership has been great. I handle marketing, and he handles the sales side, and I also handle onboarding. He handles recruiting.
Gotcha. So you're more of the e-com face, and then he's more of the recruiting sales type of thing, right? Yeah. So it's similar with me and Esteban, where he's more in the real estate space, but he also helps with the systems. I'm more on the sales side and recruiting. I'm focused on that, so it's like a good match. Where, because the beauty of our industry is that we can help anyone and their moms. Yeah. Literally, your mom needs a VA probably.
Yeah, probably.
The downside is that if you help everyone, you end up helping no one. Right? If you try to help e-com and then lawyers and then dentists, and we've done that. That was like one of the things that kind of got us stagnant until we're like, okay, we're going to focus on helping only real estate investors. We still work with other people, but we don't want to advertise like we work with everyone, because then anyone that's an expert in the industry is like, this person's not an expert in my industry. Why would I not just find someone that has exactly what I'm looking for, right? So there's like competitors in our space that are called real estate virtual assistants, Riva. There's REI call center. So we're competing with these people that are literally specific for REI. Right. So that was the mindset that we have, which sounds like a similar mindset that you have. You're like, yo, let's conquer e-com first, and then from there, you might not even want to, right? Like if you make X amount of money, which might be your goal with e-com, going to another industry might not make sense, right? Absolutely. Because it's like a different learning path, it's different language, it's completely different. And from my experience, if we can scale with just real estate, we'll probably just stick to real estate at least for this foreseeable future, especially since investors, there's a difference between an investor and a real estate agent, where for you guys, there's FCA, what's it called? FBA. There's Amazon, Shopify,
Walmart,
then Etsy, and then eBay. You have that industry in itself. We're talking about millions of people.
Oh yeah, and then you have all the marketing agencies that support those.
Correct.
Right, and then
the bad marketing.
Exactly.
Yes. So it's it is so cool, because it's like you just need to focus on this one industry. So what I'm really excited to talk to you about, outside of everything, I'm excited so far, but is the fact that you picked, in my opinion, a controversial country to hire from, because there's already controversy in the Philippines. There's controversy, really anywhere outside the U.S. there's controversy.
Absolutely.
But there's because LATAM people are connected. There's a lot of Latinos in the U.S. Right? I think that's like 25% of you Americans speak Spanish, or a big number, right? Whatever that may be. However, you did not pick Philippines, which a lot of people are used to. You didn't pick India, a lot of people used to. You didn't pick anywhere in Latin America.
Right.
You picked
Nigeria,
which is
incredible.
It's incredible. It's completely out of left field.
Yes. No one's really hiring from there.
Nobody's hiring from there. It is a complete mistrust there. Walk me through that story, because that's a whole different ballgame, and then let's dive a little bit more into why Nigerians. What do you see in that market? How did you start with that market specifically?
Very good question. So like I said, I hired all my staff really in my last company from Pakistan and the Philippines.
Right.
Mostly the Pakistan, actually. We also hired from Latin America as well. For Talent Hackers, we chose Nigeria because we saw in the Philippines in particular, and sometimes in Pakistan, because Pakistan's 9 hours ahead, Philippines is 12 hours ahead, we saw a lot of burnout and a lot of churn with our employees in the Philippines mainly, but also a little bit in Pakistan, because again, they're 9 hours ahead too. The reason why is because they're working like vampires. They have to work Eastern time zone or sometimes Pacific time zone for U.S. businesses, and they're 12 hours ahead of the Eastern time zone. So they're working 9 p.m. to 5 a.m.
It's crazy.
Their time.
Insane.
So they're night owls.
Yeah.
Their projections that Nigeria is going to be the number 3, number 2 by 2040 or 2050.
It's not even that big of a country, though.
It's not even that big of a country. It's in Africa. 230 million. They doubled in the last 20 years. You know what that means, Omer?
That's insane.
The median age is what?
Like 20?
Exactly, because they doubled in the last 20 years.
Right.
So half of the population is that young. Is that right? And so and the young generation is growing up in this internet world and this world with Wi-Fi and the connection to internet. So I think that they're going to be able to support a lot of different businesses all across the world, because the tech talent coming out of Nigeria is superior to most countries, believe it or not. And the government actually launched a program called NITDA, N-I-T-D-A, and they're focused on becoming the #1 outsourcing hub of the world by 2027 over the Philippines. The Philippines is currently #1.
Over India, too.
And over India.
Wow.
So you have a highly motivated population, right? Because they're an impoverished country. The median salary there is like $300 to $400 a month. And you're giving them the opportunity to work for a U.S. business and make 3 to 4 to 5 times the median salary in their country. And they're doing it remotely, just with a Wi-Fi connection. So now, by enabling these people in Nigeria who are young, hungry, capable, have integrity, or honorable, they are going above and beyond for you, because you're giving them the opportunity to build their resume working for your company that's based in the US. And so we're finding these people to be extremely proactive, very good communicators, and most people don't even know that the native language in Nigeria is English. People think they don't speak English.
I thought it was French or something.
It's English. The president gives speeches in English. So I mean, some of the employees that I have, their written communication is better than mine.
The girl that I met yesterday on our little demo, she's Nigerian?
She's Nigerian.
Perfect English.
Perfect English.
Yeah.
She's incredible.
Yeah.
And so I'm not only hiring Nigerians for my clients, but my internal team today, we're a team of 10, all Nigerians, except for my partner and I, and we do have one U.S. employee now. But all Nigerians, and they've been incredible. They've been incredible to work with, better than the people I've worked with in the Philippines, in Pakistan, and in Latin America, believe it or not. But now I will say that, look, there are great people all around the world.
Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be some bad apples, even in Nigeria. It's a numbers game, right? But our job is what? To find high quality talent. That's our whole service. So if we can't hire solid people internally, then we're not providing a good service, right?
Yeah.
So
it's interesting because I tell my team this all the time. We have to be the best.
We have to be the best.
#1, we have to be the best, to hire the highest level talent. Even if you have to pay a little bit over budget, which we've done a few times, I'm okay with that. If everybody's good, like I was telling you about our client-facing team, our hiring consultants, we like to call them. They're all 3 of them were above budget, to be honest with you. But all of them were worth it, and all of them are now making more money than they've made before. And to me, that's like, okay, that's a great parameter. So going back to Nigeria, I think the biggest misconception I think people have in Nigeria, you're talking about #1 is the English, right? Because at least, people, I don't think people think that about Mexico, because they go to Mexico, they go to Cancun, they're like, people speak Spanish to them.
Yeah.
But in Nigeria, I am one of the people that just learned that English is the main language over there, which is interesting. It's the thing that I think a lot of people have a bad taste in their mouth from Nigeria is the scammers. And that makes sense because their technology is so good, they're actually able to scam people. I was always wondering, I was like, how the fuck are you scamming when you guys are like, there's no Wi-Fi there? Oh boy, there's definitely Wi-Fi there.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's no issues with Wi-Fi. Yeah, I mean, there's a bad rep for Nigeria, but also there's a bad rep in Russia. There's a bad rep in China.
Everywhere.
There's a bad rep everywhere. I mean, there's 7 billion people on Earth. You can't take a population of 230 million people, which is 5% of the world population, and say they're all scammers. That's ridiculous, right?
That's crazy. Yeah, it's insane.
It's like saying all Muslims are bad. I'm Muslim, by the way. We're not all bad, right?
Yeah.
So, it's just, so, I mean, I think that, you find the right people.
That's it. And it's what you guys do. It's like literally what both of us do is looking. You don't need 200 million people. I literally told my team, do you guys realize that if we place 1,000 people in 1 year, it's over. It's a wrap.
Yeah,
we're done. We're good. We're set. You guys are all making good money, and we can because then we have a proven concept beyond a proven concept because we already have a proven concept. The same thing for you guys, right? So I'm excited to talk a little bit more about the differences between my model and your model. Before I get there, so is the goal right now? You're in Nigeria, 200 million people. You're not running out of people. Do you guys want to hire from countries from other African countries?
I'm glad you asked that question. So Nigeria we prefer, but we actually do hire today from Latin America.
Nice.
I was using remotelatinos.com. You guys have a great job board. I'm finding great talent there. I have a client specifically that asked for someone in Colombia in particular because they want the person to be bilingual, speaking English and Spanish. And so naturally he wanted a Colombian, and we were fine with that. And we're here in Colombia today. There's a great Colombians. I've hired Colombians. So we hire in Latin America. We hire in Pakistan. In Pakistan, I personally know that there's a ton of really strong Amazon talent. Like I said, I hired a ton of Amazon talent from my last company. So I still hire from Pakistan, even Philippines here and there, but primarily Nigeria. Honestly, we've been getting the best feedback from our clients from the Nigerian talent.
Interesting.
We like to have check-ins with the candidates that we place for our clients, pretty often early on, and then monthly thereafter. And the reviews we've been getting have been fantastic. I think like the average rating we're getting is like a 9 out of 10. We ask our clients how are things going from 1 to 10. 10 being really good and 1 being terrible, and the average score right now is about a 9 out of 10.
It's fucking awesome.
And the reason why it's not a 10 out of 10 is because they wish that they were right there with them, next to them in the office. But actually that's just a joke because they find that being accessible remotely has been way more productive.
100%. Especially if you have family, it's like like my executive assistant as a kid, something happened, she just I don't even know how people were able to work 10 years ago, 20 years ago with not being remote. It blows my mind.
It blows my mind.
So you're hiring from other countries. Nigeria's number one. And I also love the name Talent Hackers because it just says talent, right? From us, from Latinos, and they're like, wait, why are you guys presenting me Egyptians? And I'm like, dude, that's good. But of course, we set expectations like, hey, for us, a country's been awesome is Egypt. Tell people all the time, we have some of the best talent. Some of the best talent we've ever had is in Egypt. Philippines crushes. Obviously, LATAM.
South Africa.
South Africa is probably number one in Africa right now in terms of for where people are hired from. Especially with their English. But so now now you're transitioning more to. At the end of the day, your job is to find talent, right? Yes. And then the businesses just care. They don't give a shit where the person's from. As long as they're going to show up, do the work, the time zone doesn't matter to them, and they got used to it. How have you guys found the time zone in Nigeria? Because it is a little bit ahead. Have you found there's issues there? Obviously, it's not as bad as the Philippines. It's not as good as Latin America. It's a little bit in between. Have you seen there's issues with that, or what? If that's not an issue, what are issues you've seen with Nigerians compared to like Pakistanis you've had, or other culture? Because I've never hired anyone from there, so I'm actually interested in like what are the downsides of hiring Nigerians?
Absolutely. So. I'm glad you asked that question. Nigeria's time zone is 5 hours ahead of the Eastern time zone.
Not bad.
So if you start your work at 9 a.m., they're starting at 2 p.m., ending at 10. They're living a normal life. It's not like the Philippines, 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. So the time zone's never an issue, and you can have 8 hours of overlap, whether you're Eastern time zone or Pacific time zone, and you're a business owner in the U.S. With the Nigerian talent. So time zone's fantastic. That was part of our assessment when we were picking where is going to be this country that we source from, and that was a big factor to it. The time zone issue. What was your other question?
My question. So, one of the things people always ask us, like, what are the pros of hiring offshore talent, right? So you talked a lot about the pros. Give me the pros and the cons of Nigerians.
Yeah, and you talked about culture as well.
Yes.
So first of all, culturally, they're very, very similar to the American culture. They watch American movies. They observe. Half of their holiday calendar overlaps with the U.S. holiday calendar, for example.
Christmas, Easter, all that stuff.
Correct.
Okay. Is it a Christian nation?
It's actually it's half Muslim and I believe half Christian.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah, and the pros and cons of Nigeria. So, all the employees that we hire actually, we never have any internet connection issues. They all have Starlink. We vet for that. Sometimes we come across people who are very qualified, but they have a heavy accent, and that's the first thing that we vet for. Mm-hmm. So it's actually not even a con because we don't hire the people with the heavy accents, even though they speak perfect English. So, we try to make sure that communication is seamless. So a lot of the pros we've been seeing is that they're extremely proactive, dedicated, they care about the company, and we only hire full-time contractors in Nigeria, which means that the people that we hire have no other obligations, right? They're not freelancers, they're not working hourly, they're working 40 hours a week in your organization, full-time, with no other obligations. So all they're thinking about every day for 8 hours are your needs. Let's talk about cons. I mean, it's really hard to say.
So I'll give you cons for LATAM. One of the cons for hiring Latinos is that in Colombia, for instance, there's a lot more holidays than the U.S. Right. So there's like 22 holidays here. There's 12 in the U.S. Something like that. So it's almost like 2x. That's definitely one. Another one that we found, it's again rare, super rare, is the internet. Like if you're like in the middle of the jungle, like you're not gonna have good internet. That's the reality. And then the third one that I've come to find is if you are, the more infatuated you are with American culture, especially living in the U.S., that's the best talent we've gotten are deported people, right? That's why I'm so, let's get this going. Let's kick them out, make them remote. But no, for real, like it's because if you live in the U.S., you've tasted American culture more than someone that grew up here, right? Even if you go to private school. Why that's important is because the one thing that Americans have, if we are the hardest working people in the world, if it's the right people. Like you take the hardest working people, it is almost always US. I mean, China's up there as well, right? But like you're talking about like some of the top entrepreneurs, billionaires, multimillionaires, it's a lot of Americans, right? And if they don't grow up in the US and they're not as infatuated with culture, they tend to be a little bit lazier because the culture, I mean, we live in Colombia, so we see it at times, is a lot more laid back, right? Like the service here, compared to like, even in Miami, the waiter in Miami or waitress will fill up my water as soon as I take 2 sips. Right. The check is there as soon as like I take my last bite. Everything is so systematic. It's not robotic, but it's systematic. Where here it's very free flow. You have to go grab them. The service is a little bit slower. There's a delay. But also people here are tentatively, they're happier. It does feel like there's a happier culture. Yeah. So I would say that's a pro and a con. And we explain that when we do the sales call, but it's the same time, it's like, for them to feel like, I want someone that's deported. It's like, bro, what if I find someone that's not deported, they've never been to the US, but they're incredible. Yeah. Do you care, what do you care more about? Deported, so exactly. Those, I would say, those are the only cons compared to like, they're amazing, the talent is, the talent pool is bigger, the salaries are much more reasonable. Yeah. So that's what I mean. I don't know if there's anything like that in Nigeria or other places you've hired compared to LATAM, for instance.
Like in the Philippines, to your point, big con is they have a lot of typhoons and they lose internet connection because the weather's so bad. Like that cuts off a lot of days. It's very choppy. Yeah. In Nigeria, I think the biggest con today, and I think it's going to get better and better over time, is that they're not exposed to as many industries in Nigeria, simply because people haven't been giving them the opportunity.
For sure.
And so I want to see more people that worked for large corporations in Nigeria. We see them. They're, companies like Microsoft, Apple actually have satellite offices in Nigeria. And so we have a talent pool with a ton of exposure, but I want to see more across different industries. Yes. I know there's a great pool of talent for developers in the e-commerce space, but really again, like more and more these cities are getting more and more advanced. Lagos, Abuja in Nigeria. I think there are going to be more and more people that are going to be enabled to have more experiences with Western companies. And today, it's pretty
It's
small.
that's just time.
That's just
anything.
time.
Medellin 10 years ago compared to what it is today is like night and day, you know?
Exactly.
So the one thing that is different about our models, we're both in the recruiting world, but you're more of a staffing company.
Yeah.
I'm more of a headhunting company.
Yeah.
Right? So explain to the people how it works. You don't have to give the exact details, but how it works and the differences between what we do and what you do.
Absolutely. So we do the same thing in the sense that we will find someone from A to Z for you. We'll find you a great candidate, right? But the difference between a recruiting agency and a staffing agency is a staffing agency acts as the employer of record. We were talking about compliance earlier. So if you're someone who's looking to hire offshore, but you don't want to deal with handling payroll and being compliant in those countries overseas, we do that for you. And so we will pay the employees, we will make sure that we're adhering to all the labor laws, we're staying compliant. You're at no risk, we're at risk, because we act as the employer of record. We also do all the admin stuff on the back end, but also being a staffing agency, we act as your forever HR partner. So if there's ever an issue with the employee that I find you, for example, or if any administrative clarifications, any issues that happen internally, we're there to support you and we step in. Also, as a staffing agency, once we start working with you, we work with you forever. So let's say a year from now, the candidate that we found you decides to move on to another job or another opportunity, which happens. Or let's say after a year, you don't really have a place for that person anymore, but you have another role you want to fill. No problem. We will simply pause billing and launch a replacement search for you at no additional cost. So we're your forever recruiter at no additional cost. Understand? And so that's how we act. That's the difference between a staffing agency and a recruiting agency. Where I think you guys help recruit and source, but then the engagement kind of finishes and they go on to handle payroll and then if they want to hire again through you, you go through the same process, right?
Yep.
So I think that's the difference.
Yeah. It's more headhunting. Yeah, exactly. So it's headhunting versus the biggest difference is that you take care of payroll. We're more like headhunting for them. So the way what I tell our clients, we're a fractional recruiting company for you, but you're in complete control.
Yeah.
And now I've told you we're launching our own HR special offer. Literally the week before we had dinner last week, I came up with the offer, and then talking to you, I was like, I need to do something like this.
Yeah.
Even if we do this 5 to 10 times a month, I mean, it's going to grow over time. And it's a no-brainer. And ultimately, the coolest part is, it is the only way we win. It's my favorite thing in the world because there's businesses that you literally fuck people over. Like you look at the Haktuo girl, right? Blew up, and now she has the meme coin, and then she rug pulled, which is, it's like disgusting. If you have to do that, you're not a good human, and it's just like, it's hard to. I mean, Mr. Beast, it's like, why? What are we doing here?
Right.
The best part about our industry is that the only way we win is if our clients and candidates win.
Exactly.
That's it.
Exactly.
If the candidate hates working for the client, but the client loves them, that's not a loss. If the client loves them, if the client hates them, but the candidate loves them, that's a loss.
Exactly.
It has to be they win, we win. We only win when we are the final boss. And I tell my team that this is like the equation I have in our industry. And even with different offers, it's the exact same equation. The partnership is the 30%. That means that's the marketing, that's sales, that's your offer, that's people finding out about you, affiliates, whatever. That's 30% of the industry. The other 30% is the recruiting. Going hunting, sourcing, vetting people, pre-qualifying them, all that stuff. 30 plus 30, that's 60%, that's majority. Guess what? A 60 out of 100 is still failure. 40% is that it's actually gonna work. Right, in the first week, the onboarding, training, and then they launch, they execute, then they start leveling up, they get better and better. There's an ROI. I hired this person, I got more appointments. I hired this person, they edit videos for me.
Yeah.
That's the 40%, that's the magic where the magic really happens. That's where because you guys don't manage the people, the candidates, even though you do provide admin, you do provide more support than we do, but you still don't manage them.
No.
So there's a lot that is on them.
Yes.
There's a lot on the company as well. So there's a lot of, I hope this fucking works.
Right.
But I'm gonna do everything in my power to make this work.
Yeah.
And that's the 60%.
Yes. And if it doesn't work, then we're gonna replace them for you for free.
Exactly.
We're gonna make sure it works.
It's gonna work, it's gonna work.
Because what we wanna do is we want our clients to focus on what? Their business, growth.
That's it.
If they're recruiting and finding the right people, it's exhausting. And dude, a lot of our clients, they tried the freelancing route. They go on Upwork, Fiverr. These candidates have other obligations. They have 5 other projects they're working on. They're not getting the full attention not giving their full attention to the clients.
Yeah.
And they have to go through a ton of people, and some fail, some don't. They want to work with someone like us and like your company who knows what they're doing, can find someone the first time, and has a pipeline of vetted, pre-vetted, trusted candidates. And so that's the value that we bring. We're going out there finding roles for our clients, but we're doing it over and over again, and a lot of the roles overlap. And so we have a repository of thousands of resumes, and we're interviewing hundreds of people. And so when a client comes to me and is like, hey, I need an Amazon brand manager, or I need a PPC manager, or I need a digital marketer, sometimes I'm like, wait, I actually have someone in my back pocket that I think would be perfect for your job description. And so we sometimes we can just help our clients right away. And if we can't, we have the infrastructure internally in our company to help you find the right person. And you can just focus on growing your business.
As you're saying this, I just remembered that I have a client that wanted me to do some Amazon stuff with them. I'm like, I don't know any of this shit. So I want to connect you with him. He's actually, he's a dope guy. I've talked to him a couple times, and I was just like, I don't want to shift my team's focus from what we need to do. That's, again, the tricky part about our industry is so easy to accept clients. Because it's pretty easy. If they're like, yo, here's what I need, I'll pay you whatever it takes. Just find me someone good.
Right.
Because what is the magic question in our industry is, what would you pay for your best team members?
Exactly.
Dude, my closer, I'd pay $20,000 to get him.
Right. The thing about our offer is we're hiring people full-time for our clients, and they're realizing that they can hire someone offshore at 80% of the cost, 80% cheaper than a U.S. equivalent. So I may hire a digital marketer that they're paying $3K a month for through me, but they were already paying someone in the U.S. $10K
Easily.
a month,
Yeah,
$12K,
maybe more, yeah.
Right? And they realize, wow, this person can do the same exact job, and I just saved, what, $9,000 a month?
Yeah.
That's almost $100,000. That's over $100,000 a year. I mean, when you talk about the payroll cost savings and the efficiency and productivity you're getting out of these offshore employees, it really becomes a no-brainer for people.
Yeah, and the margins are healthy, and then it becomes more and more of a no-brainer. And it's my favorite part about what both of us are doing is that it's already been done. We're not starting something new. Maybe we have something unique, whatever, but name, the logo, the brand, whatever. Staffing world has been going on for a long time. Headhunting, recruiting, now I'm starting to do staffing as well, has been going around for a long time. We just have to figure it out on our own. And I believe that number, if you can staff 1,000 people in a year, with the headhunting model, you don't need to do that with staffing, it's over. With staffing, if you do 200 in a year.
Oh my God.
Right? Like it's insane. And it's a win-win, right?
It's a win-win for three people.
Yeah.
For three parties.
Yes.
Our client,
Yep.
our candidates, and us. Everyone's winning.
Yes.
No one's losing. It's not I'm taking more than you're taking. Actually,
no.
We're finding people jobs, we're growing, we're helping businesses grow, and we're taking a small cut to help facilitate that.
Yes. I love that. So as we wind down, man, like what would you say is the vision and mission of what your company is? Like what, for instance, for us, we want to help 10,000 individuals in Latin America find remote careers, also help 10,000 businesses scale remotely. What is the vision and mission for Talent Hackers?
We want to shine the spotlight on Nigeria. We're extremely bullish on it. And really our mission statement in one sentence is to help connect 3% of the world population with the rest of the world. And that's what we're trying to do. There's a ton of really incredible talent out there, and this talent pool is extremely overlooked. And that's the mission, really.
Yeah. It's cool that you guys had so much experience from your previous business in terms of hiring hundreds of people, and you interviewed so many people, because you are to here because of that purely. Because otherwise, how would you have found out about offshore talent? It's kind of, you would have to have worked or started some sort of business. But even then, like, you don't think about, I'm going to do a staffing, because usually you have to grow. What I noticed, everybody it's in our space has either worked in big companies and they've hired like a lot of people, or they were like getting asked questions like, yo, where do you find these people? Where do you find these people?
Right.
And then they were like, yo, I'll do this for you. Like literally so many people in the REI space that do recruiting, that's how they started. Yeah. People were asking them like, yo, can you find me someone? I'll pay you. Can you find me someone? That's basically how, in a sense, I started as well, not in the real estate space. So it's like we're touching gold right now, right? Nigeria, with Latin America, with offshore talent. But more importantly than the place is the fact that they can work remote, and the fact that they make more money than they have made in previous jobs or working locally or working for another Nigerian company or working for a Colombian company. Like, it's the goal that they get to make more money remotely.
Yeah.
I am a big believer that you, as a person, man or woman, the first freedom you need to unlock is location freedom. Location freedom. Unlock that. If once you unlock that, financial freedom is obviously not easy, but with the right investments, leveling up in your job, getting advances, bonuses, whatever the case may be, then you can start unlocking slowly financial freedom. But our parents grew up in a time where there's no location freedom unless you made it.
Right.
And I think today you don't have to make it and still have a pretty good life, especially living remotely.
Yeah, we were talking about this. I mean, this is the only time in human history where you can actually be anywhere in the world and still be a top 1% income earner.
Ever.
Whether you're an employee or not, or a business owner too, but especially business owners, we can be here in Medellin, Colombia, but we're American, and build a business remotely and travel the world. And I think this new economy allows for a lot of people to do this. More and more people are realizing that they don't want to get sucked into that 30-year mortgage. Yep. Be locked down to a particular geographical location and make America remote again.
That's it. As we wind down to the last couple minutes here, what would you tell people that are in the they want to hire Nigerians, they want to hire talent hackers, but they're just not quite ready because they feel like they need to do the job themselves, or they would rather hire an American person? And I know you mentioned a lot of this stuff, but what would be the final elevator pitch of why someone should hire talent hackers or even remote workers?
Yeah, I mean, I think that first of all, you're saving. You can hire 4 to 5 people for the price of one person in the U.S., and you can find those 5 people, and you can increase your output by 5x. So you get more support, more resources for your business, and if you're a startup, you get the support early on because it's affordable. You don't have to pay 6 figures for someone in the U.S. early on. Save that money, get support early on, or even if you feel like your organization is bloated, try to cut costs and add some support roles offshore. Start there. All businesses are building remotely these days, or we've all been exposed to it. Companies are building hybrid situations. So I think if you just stick to your systems and processes internally, you just bring them remote, you're going to see a ton of efficiency improvements in your organization.
Yeah. Last question for you. What's the difference between a virtual assistant and a remote team member?
A virtual assistant is someone that you delegate tasks to. They kind of operate like a robot. A dedicated full-time employee or worker in your organization, the people that we hire, these people could be strategic thinkers. They're very strong individual contributors as well, but they're also proactive and they come up with ideas. So they're not just robots where you're just assigning tasks and they're doing them and then they're signing off at the end of the day. They're actually coming to meetings with an agenda and trying to push your business forward like any other employee would.
100%. I think that's the biggest thing is a VA, I feel like it's not a bad thing. I think a VA is a starter. It's a starter package, right? And then you level up as either whether you're an employee or contractor and you become like a true part of the team because startups live and die by the company's vision and mission, but also the culture. And you can't create culture with robots.
No, you cannot.
I need people that if I say something wrong or if I do something wrong, they're like, yo, this is not right, even if I'm the CEO. And it's like a democracy. I'll be the final say and I'll have the final word, but it's a democracy. And I need free thinkers.
Exactly. And to your people think offshore talent, these people, they don't feel like they're ever going to be a part of their team, but why? Employees in the U.S. today are working remote as well. Why would you treat someone differently just because of their geographical location? Whether you're in New Jersey or you're in California, you're not going to treat those people differently. Why would you treat someone in Nigeria or Colombia differently? These are human beings. Treat everyone the same, create a culture, and you're going to see 100% of these people's efforts going into your organization. If you just treat them with the human decency and like any other team member, it's honestly pretty simple. Like just get rid of that stigma and you'll see what happens to your business.
I love it, man. And, I really believe that we're going to have a second part in the near future, talk a little bit more about culture and leadership. And, man, thank you so much for coming to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
It's been a pleasure. Guys, remember, we are making America remote again every single day, step by step. I'll see you in the next episode. Let's go.